All right, just so you know, most people do not blow up out of nowhere. You feel me? So today we're going to be talking about speaking up on wrongs before they turn into resentment, right? And it's because little things build up. It's the little things like, nah, it's cool, or I don't mind, or faking a laugh when you really don't like something, right? And that's swallowing your feelings essentially until one day something small starts to feel like a betrayal because it is. It's a betrayal to yourself, right? And so yourself isn't going to let you do it for forever. And then it becomes bigger than you meant it to be. And it becomes a blow up because it's everything you haven't said that you've been wanting to say, right? And we've all done it. We've let things slide to try and keep the peace, right? We have people talk over us, we stay quiet. They cancel on you last minute, you brush it off. They always show up late, you say it's okay. You don't like any of it. Someone makes a slick comment, you feel insulted. You or you don't say anything, right? Deep down, you feel it though, right? And the problem isn't the unspoken things. It's the fact that the way you feel isn't going to disappear, right? And your feelings are just going to intensify and multiply. So what you don't express is going to turn into a tension literally in your body. And that tension turns into resentment. And that resentment is going to do what? It'll kill a friendship. It'll kill a relationship, even one with a family member. And sometimes resentment drives people to actually off people. You feel me? So why don't we speak up? Let's be real. Most of us don't speak up usually for one of two reasons, if not both of them. We don't want to look sensitive, right? We don't want to look like we're giving this more of our energy than we need to. And we don't want to start a conflict, right? And some of us don't want to give people the power or the control over us to make us feel mad or sad or hurt. So we ignore it or brush it off, right? Or we don't want to get into an argument or a disagreement with the person. Sometimes because you value the friendship. But if someone isn't able to understand that you don't like something and that you don't appreciate them doing it, is it really a friendship, right? Or other cases, it might be your job. You don't want to mess up your relationship with your money, right? So you're going to sit back on how you feel and continue to be mistreated. But at what cost? Because like I just said, these feelings build up into tension, and that tension builds up in your body. And we call disease, if you look at it, is D-I-S, dis-ease, E-A-S-E. You're not at comfort. You're not comfortable. So continually putting yourself into situations that make you uncomfortable and build tension in your body is causing disease. Hypertension, disease. High cholesterol, high blood pressure comes from what? Sometimes people's emotions shoot up and their blood rises. You feel me? I'm gonna leave that there. So, but the silence and the conflict is just delaying everything. You feel me? The silence is delaying the conflict. So every time you choose your silence over being honest to yourself, you're trading your short-term comfort for your long-term chaos, right? You can be comfortable right now, but your inside is chaotic and is going to continue to build in chaos in this relationship with this person until you address some of these grievances, right? So it's not about being over the top, melodramatic, over dramatic, none of that. It's just about being clear because sometimes it's as simple as just saying it and getting it off your chest. You don't always have to care whether or not somebody changes their approach, but you do have to do yourself the service and the justice of letting them know that you don't like it. So at least they know every time they're doing it, they're doing something you don't like. If someone punches you in the face, I guess that's a bad analogy because if you get punched in the face one time, you probably gonna want to punch them back. But like, if somebody accidentally bumps you one time, all right, cool. If you say nothing and you let them bump you silently 5 more times, when you finally flip out and you actually punch them, you're going to be looked at like you took that over the top for anyone who didn't see the 5 other bumps. But if the first time they bumped you, you said, hey, I don't like that, do not do it again, and then they proceed to do it 5 more times, you at least know that you and that person understands that you don't like that thing. So the way you retaliated is understood between the both of you, right? Oh, it's not about being dramatic. It's about being clear. Telling someone, hey, when you did that, it rubbed me the wrong way. And it's better than just not talking to them 6 months later or blowing up on them 6 months later. Saying, I felt dismissed when you said that is better than letting it fester until you just can't stand being around them. Like you don't need to end the relationship because you're mad at somebody because you never said something. And you definitely and you definitely don't have to yell. You don't have to fight. You just have to be 100% honest. Sometimes being completely honest is more powerful than even starting a fight because sometimes people will do things to provoke you. and expect you to be mad or be angry or act a certain way. But if you're just really honest with the behavior and you're just like, that was nasty, I don't think I want to be around with this, they'll just be like, oh, damn. Well, first off, I was acting this way to get a response and I didn't get a response. And secondly, maybe my behavior wasn't okay. And now the relationship with you is different. Those are three L's. And all you did was tell the truth. You didn't get mad at them. You didn't say, don't treat me like this. You didn't say you're a bad person. You just said those actions don't exhibit the types of things that I want in my life. Now they're either going to say and change their actions or be prepared to be removed from your life. I think it's really just powerful to be honest and get things off your chest without trying to make somebody else responsible for how you feel or the way that you perceive something. Just because I see it this way doesn't mean you're wrong or you're bad. I'm just looking out for what I do and I don't like. When you did that, it rubbed me the wrong way. I felt dismissed when you said this. I don't like when these things happen. And when you put it that way, it's just simply saying, I don't like something and I'm not going to stay here for it. If I don't like mustard, I'm not going to keep eating food with mustard on it, especially if I told the cook I don't like mustard. If you keep serving me mustard, you don't like me. Like, I'll go shop and eat somewhere else. So, how to speak up without actually starting a war? You can try a lot of different things. You can just say, hey, I want to bring up something because I value our relationship. I value our friendship. I value your companionship. There's something I really want to talk about before it goes too far because, you feel me? You start off in a nice way. You can say, hey, when you did that, I felt this is something I had to learn. A lot of people, when you say when you did that, or you do this all the time, or you always do, and you're putting it on them and their action, when that's not the problem necessarily, it's the way you felt about the action. Because what they did, the way you seen it or perceived it, might not be the same thing that they thought they were doing, or you perceived what they did wrong. But the way that you felt about it is non-negotiable. You can't argue the way you felt in a situation. You can just express it, address it, and then decide how to move forward with it, right? You can also say, I'm not trying to blame you. I don't want to place any blame on anything. I just want to keep things honest. Or can we talk about X, Y, and Z? If you come from it with this open-ended conversation, it's easier to approach it without it turning into a bigger dispute because you're letting it be known you want to express how you felt, not dictate someone else's behavior. I personally don't think it's weak to speak. It's weaker to suppress because you're literally fighting something that's trying to get out of you. You feel me? They always say men who can't express become men who explode or men who disappear. One thing I'm learning from speaking to more women in open-ended contexts is their fear of men who don't say that they don't like things. And I could be wrong with this, but I feel like part of the reason we have what we call shit tests and stuff like that is to see what you'll accept, not just that, to see if you'll speak up when you don't like something and you don't accept something, because it shows that you're not passive and it shows that you know how to speak up, so you're not going to explode. You know how to deal with your emotions, so you're not going to explode. As a man, this isn't something that I think about in that context about whether or not I'm going to explode or whether or not people around me are worried about that. But as women, that's one thing that they fear when coming into contact and relationship with men is how does he handle his emotions and does he have an outlet for them? Because if not, he's going to explode. And this is something I've literally heard out of the mouths of women. And I had to say, wow, that's the way you think about it. It's part of what we were talking about with whether or not men should cry and not whether or not they should cry, but the women wanting their man to cry with them. I think I'm going to do a video on that because that was a very interesting conversation. So what happens when you don't express? You hold it in, but it leaks out in your tone, in your body language, in your attitude. Sometimes you don't text back. You stop trusting them. You start becoming passive aggressive with your jokes. You can be insulting. That's not peace. That's quiet resentment and low-key snarky. You can become underhanded because under the surface, you're not pleased with this person and you're trying to show them without having to show them. Or you just have some ill will or animosity built up against them, and it's just naturally going to bleed through. One of the biggest things for me is that we have an open door, open book policy, where if I do or said anything that made you feel slighted, disrespected, whatever the case may be, tell me sooner than later. Because I've been in situations where 6 months down the line, I'm calling out behavior or mistreatment, and there's justification behind why from something that happened 6 months ago that wasn't even intentional. So it was like you intentionally went out of the way to hurt my feelings because of one unintentional conversation we had where I wasn't even aware that you felt wronged or slighted. I can't do this. Like, this is a game of mental chess in war. I'm trying to love you, and you over here trying to hurt my feelings on purpose. Yeah, we're not gonna do this, dog. I don't do the quiet resentment. And if I feel as if there's something between us, I'm going to ask you, hey, I just want to make sure we're good because I feel like the other night there was something else you wanted to say and you didn't. Or like, I noticed the way you were looking when this happened. Was there something you wanted to talk about? Because I don't do that resentment stuff. I try not to. I try not to. And even for me personally, I've had a situation where I didn't like the fact that a woman was late. She was late on our first date. She was late this night. And I'm someone who values my time, first off, and I like punctuality. Simple as that. But tonight it was bigger than all of that. I had invited her over for dinner and I had been waiting to eat for her, right? And so when she arrived, my body language was different than what she was used to because I was slightly upset and I was very hungry. So I was short in my action, short in my interaction, and I guess my vocal tone didn't register well with her. That very night, within 10 minutes, I got into the fact that I was displeased and upset over the fact that she told me she was going to be here and she wasn't there because I was waiting on her. It turned into a whole argument. But if I had told her before she even got there, oh, I really don't like the fact that you were this late. Or as soon as we got inside, I appreciate that you came, but I'm really upset that it took you so long because I've been waiting on you. She wouldn't have had the chance to say, I don't like the way you're talking to me after talking for 10 minutes. And I was like, well, I don't like the fact that you were late. So what does that have to do with the way that you're talking to me? You feel me? If I had addressed it from the very jump, hey, I don't like the fact that you keep being late and it made me upset. She would have already known I was upset, and that's the reason why I was acting the way I was. But even bigger than that, I feel like just a different type of mindset would have allowed her to say, my bad. If I would have got in my bad, it doesn't matter. Now I'm going back into the past. But that's just one example of how things bleed out into your body language, into your tone, into your voice when you hold things in. So practice being honest with people. Practice with people you trust, people you know, people who've been in your life for a while, and just start small. It could be literally as small as, hey, I know it might have been a while ago, but it was just one time where you said X, Y, Z, and I didn't really like it. And you feel me? They might have not even known. You can be disappointed by people, but still show up in your truth and still own your feelings. And as long as you're just being honest and not trying to be hurtful, and you're talking about how you felt about a situation, it's okay to be misunderstood. It's okay. Sometimes you telling someone that you don't like something calls out their behavior, and so they're going to defend everything because they're trying to protect their ego when it has nothing to do with what their ego is saying and everything to do with the way that you feel, right? We can't make everybody understand our feelings. We can just be honest with them and be honest to ourselves. So we're not lying to ourselves and building up resentment within relationships that we want to keep or building up tension and disease in our body, right? You can't build a strong relationship without having real conversations. And you can't have a real conversation if you can't be honest, right? And you don't have to be confrontational. You don't have to be rude. You don't have to be disrespectful. You just have to be clear and in touch with how you actually feel. And you have to actually speak because if you don't, your silence will say things your heart didn't mean. You feel me? You might not mean to be closed off. You might not mean to be cold. Like, just think about this. How many times have you heard stories about marriages where there's like, I don't know what's going on. Like, we used to sleep in the same bed. We used to be so da da da, but on both ends, he's barely talking, he barely eats, like, or he's always busy, or she's always, you feel me? Just like a relationship that has gotten to a point where the person doesn't feel as if they know the other person they're in the relationship with, or like everything has changed. And usually it's because something has built up over time that the other person had let slide. You feel me? And now they are realizing they betrayed themselves. Don't do it. It hinders you more than it hinders the other person. And it hinders the other person because sometimes you speaking up on how you feel is what the other person needs to hear in order to grow as a person. Somebody could have been rude their whole lives. They were always talked a certain way or acted a certain way. And then you saying, hey, I don't like that might might. Don't put this responsibility on yourself, but it might actually get them to see the error in their ways and start to apologize, or at least at the minimum, stop doing it to you and possibly stop doing it to other people. Because if you feel some type of way about the treatment, the talk, the conversation, the interactions with the person, and you feel that type of way with them multiple times, chances are other people either feel that way or have felt that way with that person, right? And sometimes we just have to chalk things up to the compatibility. Some people are just, you know what I mean? They like being mean, or they like cracking jokes on people. Like, I'm not saying everybody who cracks jokes on somebody is someone you shouldn't have in your life, but some people are more sensitive than other people. So like the banter back and forth might actually hurt your feelings. You feel me? Or like roasted people might actually get to you. And some people might say you're soft or you're sensitive. But if that's how you feel, that's how you feel. You can do your best to work around it. But if you felt disrespected by something, if someone makes jokes that you don't like if someone speaks to you in a way that you don't like, you're allowed to say, I don't like it. And then if someone tells you you're wrong, you can sit down and ask yourself, why or how could I be wrong? And then you can still decide, even if I'm wrong, I don't like it. But you have to be able to voice it to even have that conversation. So if this spoke to you, go ahead, drop a comment, say, I'm learning to speak, or say, I am going to speak. Tag someone you know that bottles things up way too much. Hit the like, hit the subscribe button. Come back next week and got another one for you. And remember, just because silence might seem like peace doesn't mean that it is. Honesty builds real connection. I'm Diesel. This is For the Boys. Do it for yourself. Speak up. Heal up. I'll see you next time.